Okie dokie, Smokey.
from Thursday, from Thanksgiving.
Yes, we're not.
Can you give us a 3, 2, 1?
3, 2, 1.
That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
And you're on now. Okay.
Yeah, so I had the snafu last weekend.
I can barely hear you in my headset.
There was a little snafu last weekend, and so I had to turn off all the.
Can you resend Dr. Clothier the link? Please.
I'm ready.
Live from VentureX Studios, it's JP, Kathy, and the crew.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Monday after the feasting. Oh my gosh, have you had enough turkey? Did you get together with your family, or as we're getting ready to talk with Dr. Norm Clothier, did COVID keep you away? And you know, all of the news right now says that COVID is surging, and doing some more surging. Do you know somebody who has gotten COVID over the holidays? Are you one of those that need to quarantine? Los Angeles. Los Angeles is getting ready to do a 3-week shutdown.
Oh, are you serious?
Dead serious. With travel restrictions, people are hopping planes.
My stepsister
to get out.
Made it here for Thanksgiving from California, and she's here through Christmas.
Well, that's good because she may not be allowed back in.
I was going to say she'd probably be stuck back in California. If
we are going to have states shutting down travel.
And I just, and we've talked about this, and we're going to have Dr. Norm Clothier on, who's he's looking for our Zoom link right now. So just keep an eye out for him. But he's going to be talking about Christmas and the potential spread and what's going to happen here after Thanksgiving. Are numbers going to go up, which I would assume they will. Well, for example, you still got together. Now, it wasn't your normal family shebang for Thanksgiving.
There was no shaboodle in my Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but we
went over to friends' houses. We were going to go to California. And we ended up not going.
Yeah. And we ended up doing Thanksgiving, and we did it. It was so wonderful. We did it outside at my brother and my stepsister, or my sister-in-law's house. They had just gotten a gorgeous outside TV kitchen and patio and new pool and everything. So we were able to eat socially distanced somewhat while we ate. When we went inside, the rule was to put a mask on. When you were grabbing your food, it was to put a mask on. But outside, everybody was kind of just mingling about. So, anyways, I was just happy to still be able to get together with family, because so many of my friends, it was, Thanksgiving via Zoom or takeout at your house. Well,
we Zoomed with my sister. They stayed home. They did not go out to her family out in Wisconsin's place. We had Dad. It was me, Dad, and Courtney for Thanksgiving. And then we went over, like I said, to Deanna and Chuck's house because they're part of our bubble. As you know, that's become a new thing, by the way.
Which a year ago, being in the bubble was a totally different definition than it is now.
Well, I don't even remember them saying that there was a bubble for family last year.
No. Well, there wasn't at this point because we didn't know about it. I'm talking about being in the bubble.
I mean in January.
Yeah,
January,
the term being in the bubble usually.
There's Dr. Clothier.
Usually refers to like.
The buyers are very high, but I'm not willing to risk it. Then you shouldn't ostracize that family member. You should. Maybe offer.
Hold on a second, Dr. Clothier. I think we've got your last week's replay.
That was interesting. Good morning, Dr. Clothier. Happy after Thanksgiving.
Have the discussion ahead of time so there's no shock. That's odd.
So.
Hold on, technical difficulty.
This is what happens when you eat too much turkey, Dr. Clothier. Your technology doesn't work.
We're still in. What is that when you eat too much turkey?
Tryptophan.
Yeah. So we're still in.
Do we have him now?
There he is.
There he is. Good morning, Dr. Clothier.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I I can't see you if you're doing any visual props this morning for me. I don't know.
We're waving.
So,
We're waving to you and saying hello.
yeah.
We're hoping you had a blessed Thanksgiving. We were just talking about Thanksgiving's being a little bit different this year, and Christmas, which you're going to talk about. And I know you did your Thanksgiving like we did our Thanksgiving because you've got a large family as well outside.
Yeah, we did. We did a much smaller group too than we expected. We were expecting a few aunts and cousins and sisters and brother, and my brother-in-law actually did the right thing and did a COVID test right before he was flying down from Minnesota on Tuesday, and it was positive, even though he had no symptoms, so he didn't come.
Oh wow!
So that's the right thing to do, just in case. And we're obviously hoping he'll be fine, but. It changed a lot of plans for a lot of people. And I think we need to talk about that with Christmas, because I think we all expect things to even escalate more for Christmas. And that's awfully hard to be, not able to get together as family. It's going to be probably a little harder to be outdoor for
in December.
Christmas, just given the season. I mean, if it were outside this morning, my morning walk was cold. I can tell you, it was cold and windy out there.
Yeah, it was crisp.
What's that?
It was
crisp. It was a crisp morning this morning.
Yes, indeed. So, all we need now is a little snowbank to walk through. It'd be kind of fun. But anyway, Christmas is, if you haven't really looked at the schedule, it's only 25 days away, though it's next month since we're still in November. But, that's only like 3 weeks and 4 days, or for some of you, a fortnight, a week, 4 days. It's coming up really soon, however you want to look at it. So, if you're going to do what I have recommended with that we do at Thanksgiving, is spend about 2 weeks really being low key and minimizing your exposure. Try not to go to restaurants in that time. Try not to go to stores. Try not to get around people that may infect you. I think a lot of college students are now home from Thanksgiving through into the new semester. So
yes, a
lot of schools have gone online.
Dr. Clothier, what I've heard from a number of my friends who have college-age kids is that they're either remote. Most of them are remote. If they have like finals or something, it's going to be done remote because they didn't want the kids coming back from out of state or out of the city and traveling back to the campus.
Right. So a lot of schools have done that. I have a son home from college who's in his last 2 weeks online and then finals online because of that very reason. They don't want him to travel, mix it up, come back, infect everybody, and go back, at Christmas and infect people even more. So, that's probably a fair plan. I think the challenge is that in this 4 week gap here, Thanksgiving to Christmas, we always see infection pick up. So, if you're going to really try to plan out Christmas in less than 2 weeks, you need to sort of enter your own bubble and, kind of keep things in a fair realm of not over infecting people, and just really try to plan that out for the Christmas holidays with whoever you'll be spending time with. You don't want to give somebody the virus for Christmas. I think that would be, a very challenging thing, obviously. And so, also, I think in planning for Christmas, we also need to think about eating. Most people overindulge at Thanksgiving. It's a planned indulgence. I think Christmas tends to be about the same, and into New Year's, very similar. So I think it's very wise to begin planning now for the thoughts of not overeating. Don't make yourself sick at Christmas. It's obviously we have New Year's resolutions right after Christmas because people generally overeat Thanksgiving to Christmas. Try your best to minimize how much you eat so that you don't have to really hit a huge reset button going into the new year. I think that's just being smart too.
Right.
And as always, pay attention to symptoms. If you're sick, see what you can do to isolate and get well. Many illnesses right now are not COVID, but many are. We had 1,000 a day for the 3 days over Thanksgiving that there was slow reporting. We're going to see an increase, I feel sure, today and tomorrow in the area because there's a little bit of a backlog of both reporting and of testing.
Right.
And I think we just have to be aware, COVID-19 is a big deal. but many other illnesses are around too. So be very careful about that.
Well, and Dr. Clothier, I'd like to ask you a question, because we've got another.
Sure.
Okay, besides the fact that, and again, like I said, my family, larger family, not a few folks weren't able to come in and travel from other states or from other cities, but we still had a big crowd, and we were outside. Okay, Christmas Eve, we have a huge, ginormous family get together. It's going to be too cold to be outside. Plus, we do this in the evening instead of during the day, so it's dark out. That's a whole nother element.
Sure.
But also on Christmas, what about now with immediate family who you live in the same house with? That's one thing. But what about the extended family? Like we do a bad Santa, we do a good Santa and a bad Santa gift exchange, and it gets very aggressive and very ugly at times, and it's hilarious. But I'm sitting here thinking, we'll have sometimes, 32 people in a white elephant gift exchange situation where you're stealing gifts. So do you need to limit those kind of activities this year?
I would, because I think that's risky. You're talking about same room, people probably grabbing and, laughing in the face of others.
Yes.
Which,
and rightfully so with my family. Yeah.
Yeah. Ordinarily, other years you would never have thought about that.
No.
And this year, I think, because of the specter of COVID, I think you have to think seriously about how to do that. And I don't think there's a good solution. I don't think there's something that just, change it up to this and it'll be perfectly safe. I don't think we're in a spot where that's going to happen. As promising as vaccines are suddenly sounding, I don't think anything's going to be available widespread enough to make a difference for this year. So this may have to be that very difficult year that you call that off, or you may need to have everybody get a test and then isolate after the test so they don't get infected waiting on the test, and see what you can do. The problem is that even if 90% of people have a test and they're all negative, the other 10% who don't test could be positive. And this could be, it's sort of a last go around for the family on that. If a bunch of people get sick and get into a difficult situation, because that's going to change the view on family gatherings too. I think there's a risk that if you get into a group that gets sick, you then have those odd and bad feelings of, somebody came with symptoms, they just didn't say anything and made us sick. Or, it's just a very difficult thing to deal with a potentially fatal illness, because there are situations where finger pointing goes on, and it may be completely unfair. There may be somebody asymptomatic who even theoretically would get a false negative test. But if you get a bunch of people sick in a family, then that's, it leads to hard feelings. I mean, that's the bottom line there.
Now, Dr. Clothier, if I may for a moment, what about open air events? Like everybody is saying, it's better to be out in the open. So what about something like meeting your family, staying socially distanced at like not an Opryland hotel, the Gaylord Hotel, where they're still doing their ice exhibit, where it's super, super cold and people are staying socially distanced and you can meet up there?
Yeah, I think the key is the way you ask that is, what about a better risk? Or, we hear it's better. It's still not perfect. Viruses are kind of conniving, and they find ways to get to people. And I'll tell you, this virus seems to be a little more contagious than many we've dealt with. That's how it got around the world so quickly, and that's how numbers have gone up so quickly. And I think those things are all better. And if you do everything you can to isolate and pay attention to rules, and either be outside or in a super well ventilated area, fans blowing through from outside air to outside, like a fan on one window blowing in and a fan on the other side of the room blowing out, so the air is circulating through. The problem is, again, in late December, I don't know that people are going to do that. Even if we said today, go set up your home to have a breeze going through there, or an outdoor area with, outdoor heaters, I don't know if people are going to follow that instruction. If it were a morning like this, with the wind and, a wind chill of 25 this morning, I don't think you're going to get a lot of compliance. I think you're going to get changes that increase the risk. So these are all things you need to talk about with your family before Christmas and see what the plan really is. See, what you can do to mitigate the risk for all the family, and pay attention, especially those who are more mature, shall we say, a little older individual, or those with illnesses, those with asthma, anybody who's a smoker, anybody with diabetes. Those are the people that are at the most risk. But I do want to mention there are more and more case reports coming out in young people who are in the hospital with no underlying illness. There aren't a great deal of deaths in that group, but there are a lot of people who've been hospitalized with COVID and have extreme trouble with breathing. And a lot of them are young. It's the group that we gave a false sense of protection to, shall we say, early in the year before we knew much about COVID, when it appeared young people didn't seem to get it much. Now we're starting to see more and more cases of young people, because I think largely because they felt like they weren't going to get it, so they haven't been quite as careful.
Well, or they felt like if they did get it, that their symptoms, it would just be kind of like maybe a bad case of the flu, stay at home for a few days and then you're okay. I also wonder, because that generation has a lot of them, and we've talked about this on past shows before COVID took over our lives, of discussion with you as our medical expert. But a large portion of that generation have at some point done those electronic or Juul cigarettes. So I wonder if maybe, we talked about back in the day how Juul and those types of cigarettes were almost targeted towards preteens and preteen girls in particular back in the day. So I wonder if even those who did that maybe while they were in high school, maybe their lungs are compromised and we're unaware, because there's still a lot we don't know about that.
Right. And I think that's a very fair point. I think any kind of inhaled substance has its risk, and you're absolutely right that there has been an increased rate of infection and an increased rate of hospitalization seen in those who smoke, whether it's a cigarette, a joint, a vaping device, right. Any of those have all increased the risk, and that's that's something you gotta be aware of too. And quit now if you haven't quit yet. But you also are correct that we don't know the long-term outcome of those things. And I think it's true. It appears very clear from early research that increases the risk. So I do want to mention, too, it's now been a year since COVID-19 was identified, because, I'd mentioned before that we hadn't had even a year's experience. It's been a year and 3 days since it was identified and genotyped, or at least released publicly as that information. So now we can begin to gather a little more longer term experience. I just want to point out a couple of things that I think are pertinent to that. One is that we now have talk of immunization against it, and a lot of people are frustrated because it's not already here. But I will mention that HIV has been around now for 40 ish years, not quite 40, about 36, and we still don't have a vaccine against it. We have the common cold. We have no effective vaccine against various common colds, and it's of interest that coronaviruses account for a lot of common colds. And so, that's maybe this will make some sort of dent in even the common cold over time if the immunization works and is affected that way and has a low crossover. So, just be patient about it, because it's a challenging process. And I do want to mention, too, I had a lot of people make the somewhat, shall we say, snarky comment that on November 4th, the day after elections, the virus would suddenly be gone and masking would be over and whatever. And, none of this is made up. It's not political. It's an international health issue. And I would really encourage people now, especially since the election's over, put all politics aside. Don't try to blame anybody for anything. No political group decided to lay a virus on America to alter the election. And, I think all of us who I believe are pretty reasonable people realize that. But there was a lot of talk. I had so many people come through my office that say, we're going to have to keep doing this till November 4th, and then the election will be over and it'll just be gone. And, it's an international scenario, and that's hurtful to those families who have lost somebody to COVID or who've lost their job to it or have been devastated by it physically and are in rehab or, all those things. We just got to realize this is a bad virus, and it's a reminder that humans have a fragile side to them. And I think protecting people through Christmas is especially important, keeping that in mind that you don't want to be cavalier and infect somebody and have long-term repercussions because of that.
Dr. Clothier, I do have another question. The president got COVID-19. It spiked pretty bad, and they put together this treatment for him. And Dr. Ben Carson said that he was knocking on death's door. And
yes, he was very ill.
Yeah, very sick. And they then introduced the same treatment that the president had, and that's when his recovery began. I heard that there was a big push to start mass producing this treatment line and getting it out for COVID patients. Have you heard anything on the medical front? Are they doing it? Have they found a treatment that will really be able to treat COVID-19 and get people back onto a walk of health?
Yeah, and that's, again, you asked it in the right way, because there does appear to be some hope for a treatment. I want to make sure we don't say that there's hope for a cure at this point, because we don't know of a cure.
Yeah, no.
Right. So there is treatment. And so and part of that is the antiviral medicines that have been on the market and so far are available by IV, and there's a push to try and make that oral so they can treat the general population more, or treat outpatients without having to have a central line put in for a few days for IV treatment, for instance. And there's hope with some of the plasma protein type treatments and antibody treatments, although that has not really panned out to be as big as what everybody hoped at first. And then, of course, there are symptomatic treatments to reduce some of the inflammatory effects, like steroids, for instance, that President Trump was placed on steroids as well. And I'm pretty sure Ben Carson would have been. I haven't looked at his treatment. But the issues there are, it seems to be an extreme inflammatory response to this virus that causes people to get so sick and to basically sort of attack their own tissue in an over-inflammatory response, or an overly strong inflammatory response. So reducing the viral effect with an antiviral, providing some antibodies, which again hasn't necessarily proven to be quite as helpful as we hoped, but also using steroids to reduce the inflammatory response to more of a normal inflammatory response seems to be the key. The challenge that we have with all that is that every person is different. And while you have some people like President Trump, who is at a senior age and did recover apparently very well, I don't know of any long-term repercussions they're looking at for him. There also are people who've had those treatments and still gone on to pass away from the virus, or to have significant inflammation that they, still have weeks and weeks of symptoms. So there's still something, obviously very different about different people and in the response to the virus. And there's been all kinds of, if you remember in the summer, there was a lot of talk about blood type and how type A blood type had a much worse prognosis. And, I started having patients ask daily for their blood type so that they would know, not that you could change anything about that. You can't change your blood type, but there just was so much talk. People all wanted to know their blood type. I haven't had a question about that in about 6 weeks, because that's really faded in terms of the issue of what the risk is. So, we still don't know differences in male and female risk, racial groups type risk, overall other factors, in there in terms of blood type, other antibodies, other prior illness. What we do know is underlying disease makes it worse and age makes it worse. But still, if you're alive, you can get the virus. And that's something that I think we just have to be aware of in terms of protecting others and protecting ourselves through the smart maneuvers you must do to try and minimize infection.
Well, Dr. Clothier, I cannot thank you enough for joining us. It is 8:00, and I know that you have patients that you need to help get onto a path of good health and help continue to guide them to a path of good health. I know that you know how to do that and do it well. And so, by the way, my father says hello, by the way.
Wonderful. Is he doing all right?
He's back in town.
He's back in town.
He may be over to see you.
Yeah, he's gonna.
Well,
we're gonna be
fantastic.
shifting his medical records and stuff to your office. He'll be moving here in December. So
Yay.
I'll have Dad.
Well,
back.
that's like just a day away. So very good.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, and stay healthy. Stay healthy, Dr. Clothier.
Well, thank
we
you.
appreciate you
Appreciate it.
so much.
All right. Have a
All
blessed
right.
week.
Have a God,
Bye.
God bless
Week.
you. All right.
Bye.
Thank
So, Kathy, you came up, and I pulled up the article.
Yes.
I just had to search it. I mean, and it's very scary about what's going on in Japan.
Right.
And I almost feel like we need to be modeling whatever Japan's doing, unless they're shutting down their country. But go ahead. You found this. This is staggering.
Well, so this in the title is what catches you, because you're like, wait a second. What are they talking about? More people died of suicide in Japan in 1 month than the entire corona pandemic. I'm going to repeat that again. More people died of suicide in Japan in 1 month, so like a 30-day period, than the entirety of this pandemic.
Well, and let's come in on the back end of that.
I mean, that's scary. And we've been talking about this.
We have.
We've been talking about that we've got our mental health moment today at 8:30.
You and I are hilarious, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Hey, well, because we're like we said this was going to be the problem. Not
I
that
know.
we're happy that we're right.
Well, no, but I'm talking about the hand
You know,
gestures.
oh.
You and I are hand gesturing at each other. It's hilarious.
We're like, hey, and
Fortunately,
hey.
we have video, so you can see that.
Yeah.
Yes, so great. And good morning to you, jazz hands.
And I
Okay.
didn't mean to take you
No,
off topic
no,
at all,
that's
but I just
okay.
thought it was hilarious when you did this.
We
And
both-
without me even thinking about it,
You did.
I'm looking at it and I went like this, and I went, okay, that's funny.
Well, but this is
That was
something
too
we have
funny.
talked about, and unfortunately, we're seeing it come to fruition in other parts of the world, and it's happening here in America right under our noses, folks. Japan is struggling with a mental health crisis as the coronavirus pandemic rages on, with more people dying in 1 month from suicide than from COVID all year long. The National Police Agency said suicides, and this is heartbreaking, surged to 2,153 in October alone, with more than 17,000 people taking their own lives this year to date, CBS reported. By comparison, fewer than 2,000 people in the entire country have died from COVID-19 in 2020. Experts say the pandemic has exacerbated mental health issues due to prolonged lockdowns, isolation from family members, unemployment, and other financial concerns, and lack of school structure. We need to seriously confront reality, Chief Government Spokesman Cato said this week, announcing new initiatives to help people via suicide hotlines and social media outreach. Japan has historically had higher rates of suicide, but the numbers had begun trending down. Japanese authorities increased suicide prevention funding, good for them, adding an additional $10 million to the $24 million budget. So this is scary, and I'm telling you, we talk about it every week, especially during our mental health moment. JP, we have not seen even the tip of the iceberg on the mental health fallout and tragedies. I'm going to say it, tragedies. It's a tragedy when we lose somebody to COVID-19. It is equally as much of a tragedy, even more so in some ways in my mind, in my humble opinion, when we lose somebody to suicide, or they lose their job because of mental health, or they lose their family or their spouse. I know people in my family, and I know close friends. I mean, I've got people who are very closely connected to me who are struggling. Some already had mental health issues, and those have exacerbated, and with loss of jobs. I know somebody who recently had to get off of a mood stabilizing mental health drug. Their anxiety and depression is at an all-time high, and it's because they don't have their job, and on unemployment, they cannot afford to continue to go to the same mental health expert and get the medication because it's super expensive, even with insurance. Something wrong here, folks, and something has got to be done.
Well, and one of the things being discussed in the morning news this morning, because I was catching about 9 different news broadcasts this morning before getting here, is that small businesses are dying as a result of COVID-19, and I'm going to leave it at that, and we'll talk about that later on another day. And they're saying that the federal government needs to step in if they're going to shut the country down. But where we're really lacking is mental health, and we have got to kick up the funding for mental health. So that comes right on the back end of what you're saying there, Kathy. Just to kind of close this out, women are being impacted more in Japan.
Interesting.
It's more of a hit for them.
Being the caretakers of the family.
Well, not even that, just also employment.
Well?
Okay. No, employment as well.
They're losing jobs before men?
In this article, yes.
Okay.
And they're having their pay reduced, right?
Okay, gotcha.
So Kobayashi, who has written several books on mental health, she herself had struggled with mental health. When she was 22 years old, she had a full-time job in publishing, and she couldn't make enough money to pay her rent. And the anxiety and the angst that came with that put her on the brink. And this is somebody who is highly intelligent. She now has a stable job, of course, at 43 with NGO in Tokyo, but they've cut her salary in half. And that's what's happening to women across the board in Japan. And the suicide impact is even higher amongst women than it is any other gender. I know there's only two, but we have I think we're binary now and transgender, so I got to be careful I don't inflame the flamers. Yeah, I did that on purpose. I sure did. Flame on, baby, bring it. So anyways, but
JP has just now transgressed a whole other group of people this morning. That's your first group to transgress and
a week.
Microaggress. Yeah, it's since before.
Yeah, in a week.
Since Friday before we left for the holiday.
But here's my theory on that. If you represent 0.003%, okay, you've just been transgressed. Anyways, the other staggering fact coming out of Japan is that this is the highest suicide rate that they have seen since May of 2015. Japan has been working tirelessly to decrease the monthly suicides that have been taking place in their country for decades. And they had finally gotten somewhere. And
they'd finally made some traction. And excuse my ignorance. There's a movie. I've not seen the movie. I think my daughter had told me about this movie. She had told me about this. It's like a forest where is it in Japan where people go to die, where they go to commit suicide? Is that Japan proper? Well,
I don't know if it's Japan proper, but I know that it's part of a.
There's some forest. Somebody from the crew help us out on that. Anyway, so and again, that was a lot of high pressure there as far as education and success and careers and just kind of everything, which makes it that pressure cooker. But you're right, they had worked on getting that down, and now you've got more people in 1 month have committed suicide than people have died of this disease in an entire year. And again, I don't think we even have all the numbers. I'd love to see numbers like that here in America. I mean, I would not love to see those numbers. I would love to see a report on those numbers. Let me clarify that.
Well, and that's coming.
So.
Japan's one of the fewest major economies that have released that data.
Okay.
But the U.S. has started to do it from 2018.
And it's not going to be good. Again, you've got substance abuse up, spousal abuse up, child abuse up, pet abuse up. You've got and neglect. You've got all kinds of stuff.
Here's become the big question on the end of that, though. Is it really up, or is it kind of like the 50s and 60s, where it's now starting to be reported? And on this end, is it now up because we're starting to find it because we're now going into people's homes?
And I think that's an interesting question, because you're now, for example, education. Now teachers are seeing in the home, they can get those glimpses. And we need who we need to have on again? The Children's Advocacy Center of Collin County. I need to get in touch with those ladies today. But
I do want us to insert some hope today as well. So before we get the mental health moment on, because we're very heavy right now.
We are.
No, I mean I'm heavy right now.
No,
really, I am. Look at me, I'm heavy. It's just the way I am.
I like your overcoat.
Thank you. I do too. I like yours too, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's very pretty. I like the scarf too.
Thank you so
much. I almost
much.
wore my scarf today.
Dang nabbits.
I should have worn my scarf
today.
Known. Yeah, but makeup looks good today too.
Well, thanks. Wow, JP.
Sure.
Some left over from last night, but that's okay. That's usually when it looks better, when I've learned.
Okay, so on the bold and the beautiful.
Report coming on Friday. Coming on Friday. But here's the thing.
A whole week and a half.
And I just want to make this statement, and then we'll move on, because we are getting heavy on this. But unfortunately, right now, and this is one of the experts who we had on the show not too long ago had mentioned how actually spousal abuse is being underreported, because with your spouse who is abusing you home 24/7, you don't have that opportunity to go to a friend's house, to call anybody, or to get the help, or to start packing a bag or making a plan to exit. So it's scary. And again, I get it. COVID is real. Yes, my dad had one of his best friends since 8th grade who just passed away. You know, you and I have a friend of ours who had a rough go of it, Michelle Smith, who, thank God, she's on the mend, but had a really rough go of it. Oxygen level dangerously low to where her organs could have started shutting down. Thankfully, she's on the mend. So we know it's real. We've got friends and family, and everybody knows somebody at this point who's had it, who's died from it. It is very real, but so is the mental health component. And doggone it, if we don't start addressing that just as head on as we have the pandemic, shame on us.
Well, let's go ahead and kick it now. We've been very heavy, and so I want
to do something fun.
I want to unheavy us. This is a local
Manic
mention.
Monday or Cyber Monday?
Well, it better be Cyber Monday. But do break out your pens and your papers, or break out your phones and start getting ready to list some of the coolest things coming out for Cyber Monday today. But before we do that, I want to make
stuff.
There is, but I want to
More
make
than ever.
Yes, but I want to do an honorable mention here. And Coach Quigley kind of took my thunder away from me.
Ruh-roh.
But how exciting is this? The first female to step on a D1 football field and play football in Vanderbilt, Tennessee. That's right, folks. How exciting is it that Sarah Fuller has
did she get slammed, though, for not doing a very good job? Then all of a sudden everybody started hating on her.
Well, who cares? The point is,
you can't win for losing.
Sarah Fuller.
She's the first. That's awesome.
And I don't know that she got. I mean, everything I'm looking at is good.
Oh, the Twitter folks went crazy with slamming her.
Well, all the articles.
Everybody was all happy, and then they had to slam her. I'm like, can somebody catch a break?
Well, all the articles I've read as of 6 o'clock this morning, everybody's pretty cool and think that it's pretty cool. And here's how it all started. She got together with her soccer girl buddies, and they were indoor at the indoor arena, football arena, practicing, and it was kind of boring. So she grabbed the goalkeepers. She brought them all to one end of the field at the 10-yard line, and she goes, I want you guys to kick at that curtain up over there. And they started kicking, and that's how she ended up playing for Vanderbilt University. And they stepped back 5 more yards and then 5 more yards. Well, the next thing you know, this senior from Wiley, Texas, wound up stepping all the way back to the 45-yard line, where she sent the ball soaring into the sheet. And so, looking
into the sheet, like the thing where you catch it, like
the
big
arena.
old net.
Well, I guess, it was just, they describe it as a sheet hanging in the indoor facility. So it could have been that. It could have been a net. I'm not sure. But there you go. And so now she's kicking a football rather than a soccer ball. And she's doing a pretty darn good job of it. The Commodores are down a number of specialists because of COVID-19 testing and in need. So Fuller put on a Vanderbilt football jersey and spoke to the media as the team's starting place kicker. And so she became the first woman to participate in a Power 5 football game and has been all over the place. Today's Show, Good Morning America, all those fun places. So congratulations to her, again, out of Wiley, Texas.
You gotta love
a local
a local lady.
Well, I heard, what was it? There was a team, one of the NFL teams, that said they're not going to be playing with any quarterbacks because of COVID.
That would be your Denver Broncos,
right? And so, I mean, you can have some female quarterbacks, maybe.
Well, I don't know about that. I wouldn't go that far. Not to say that a woman couldn't.
The offensive line is
right. I'm not saying that a woman couldn't do it. And in fact, you're right. The offensive line might see it as her little sister.
That's right.
And they might even be better at the offensive line.
Step it up, guys.
So, but yeah, break out your pens and papers. It is Cyber Monday deal time. And so, Kathy, let's bounce back and forth. You said you've seen a lot out there. What is one of your favorite Cyber Monday deals so far?
I'm going to have to pull back up the exact price. Like Amazon, I read this morning, just like without even saying anything, all of a sudden, flooded the internet or their site with all of these Cyber Monday deals. I did see. Oh, I can pull this one up right now. I'm trying to pull up my Baby Yoda gift.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to pull up one of my Baby Yoda gifts, but I can tell you about this. There is here we go.
I sent you a link, Bree, if you'll pull that link up for me.
And
That's what Kathy's been doing on her iPad, shopping all morning.
Is that what she's been doing?
No, I've been looking at baby.
I wouldn't blame her.
I've been looking at Baby Yoda ornaments because, oh my goodness, The
shopping, like I said,
Mandalorian
shopping.
is the best show on TV. Oh, for the love of God, it's so good.
So while Kathy's doing that, I'm going to
go ahead and
are you ready?
Because I'm getting ready to. I'm sending mine over so we can.
All right, Bree, pull up the link for me if you would, please.
Bree the intern, ladies and gentlemen.
Bree the intern, My Smart
the applause
Gadget.
for her?
So if you want to know where to go, mysmartgadgets.com. They have got listed the 19 most incredible gadgets money can buy in 2020. Of course, one of those is the digital thermometer. Who would have thought the forehead digital thermometer thingy-majigger would become one of the best?
You couldn't get, back when COVID first started.
Number 10? Are we starting on number 10?
You couldn't find a thermometer anywhere to save your life.
Okay.
So, and actually, let's go ahead and start at number one. I just threw it out there just to throw it out there.
Okay.
But number one, Starscope Monocular. See everything from miles away like you are standing next to it. So remember the guys on the ships? They used to stand there and look through their monocular. Now you can do the same thing and make sure that your COVID-19 friendly neighbors are behaving. Just
Find
kidding.
your golf ball.
Wasn't that terrible? That was terrible.
You can find your golf ball.
Your what?
Your golf ball.
Oh,
You
your
can use
golf
it to
ball.
Find your golf ball.
Yeah, there you go. Golf ball finding. How about this? Kalo, futuristic patch that uses nanotech to relieve your pain. And that's really cool looking, by the way. I don't know if you can see. Oh, yeah, it's up there on the board. So I'm going to be looking to invest in this because my left knee, especially when the weather changes, goes to pain. And so I'm going to go and invest myself into this little beauty and get it myself.
So if someone causes me pain, I just put that on them?
I put it across their mouth, maybe?
No, Charles and Bree would do that every morning with us. Okay, so I'm dying to know how that works because, like, a lot of times, the patches that, like, have the medicine or the heat, in them or the icy hot or whatever the case may be, when you start buying those add up.
So here's what it says. When you're feeling pain, all you have to do is stick a Kalo to your body somewhere between the pain and your brain. Within moments, you'll begin to feel the pain easing away. Kalo is reusable and lasts for years.
That's what I like, reusable and lasts for years.
Put it between
the brain and your pain.
Is that it?
That could be, yeah.
Just put it on your forehead and that's all good, or your neck.
The only maintenance required simply involves replacing the adhesive every now and then, and that's it. Okay. And so basically, this nanotechnology is talking to your brain.
And saying you don't really hurt.
Well, and this goes to the same concept that that Chuck's nephew was talking, brother-in-law, pardon me.
Nephew-in-law,
I guess. That Tapley was talking about. We're going to have him back on about pulling out of your body those cells.
Platelet-rich plasma.
Cells.
Yeah, the plasma. And
PRP.
so
PRP and stem cells. Yeah, your own. Yeah.
So very interesting stuff.
It's like JP and I knew that if we waited long enough to have knee surgery, that they would invent something that would prevent us from having to get knee surgery.
Exactly.
Can you pull up what I just sent over, Chambrielle?
And be prepared to bounce back and forth.
Oh, yeah, we're going to.
Okay, so
Monday Cyber Deals.
I am. So I'm just curious now. My husband had already purchased. I got my birthday gift. My birthday's coming up, but I got my birthday gift early. Which, speaking of birthdays, a belated birthday on the air to my dad, who celebrated his birthday, and we got to celebrate with him on Thanksgiving Day. So I love you, Dad.
Outside, socially distanced.
So your foot. This is a foot thing,
so people, if you're following me on Facebook, you see that for the picture. Yeah, not so much. Yeah, so this is, and I wonder if my husband has. I'm hoping this is possibly under the Christmas tree on Christmas, along with the 9 Baby Yoda toys I've asked for. I'll take either, honey. But this is, and I've sent Michael, I think, the same link 3 times. So I don't know, maybe he's figured it out. But I think he would dig this too, because he gets sore feet a lot more often than I do. But this is supposed to help your back, your feet, your circulation in your legs. And it's a shiatsu massager, like a really serious one for your feet. If anybody has this or has used this, I would love a review on this. It kind of shows the different parts of, because all of your organs are impacted on the bottom of your feet. There's different parts on the bottom of your feet. My mom's a physical therapist, so she talks to me about this all the time, where you can do massages and it helps you with like your liver or your sinuses or neck pain or back pain or whatever the case may be. So this helps you get that deep tissue massage. It helps with your, circulation, with pain. I mean, there's just a whole list of everything that it helps with. And it's on sale. The regular price, it helps with relaxation, better sleep, improves mood, fights depression, alleviates swelling. You know what? This may be something good for your dad.
Well, this is something good
to look at.
Well,
for
what
your
I was
dad.
going to tell you.
It's on sale. It's $379 on sale for $119.
See, I was going to tell you
No.
that one of the cool things
the
about
next hour.
this.
The next
next
few
hour.
hours. Yeah, but it's been the next hour for the last 3 days.
Yeah.
Just saying.
40
Well,
minutes
don't
showing.
change it.
Here's the other thing about this, though. The other thing about this, though, is it's not just good for the foot massage or what have you
Right.
with that. With people working at home, sitting at their desks
And
all
not
day
getting up
long,
at all. Yeah.
this could be a really good tool to help stimulate blood movement,
Absolutely.
muscular movement without even having to do much.
Yes,
if you're
yes,
stuck
yes,
at your
yes.
home a lot.
Yep.
So
and most people are working from home. I know my dad. He was working from home, during the majority of the pandemic, and then they went back. But now because of the holidays and the spike, they're all going back to working from home. My husband's still working from home, and I know he has a lot of foot pain and stuff. So I just think, and again. Is it one of those you use it 3 times and then a spring pops out and stabs your foot?
Right.
Or is it really just a really good price? Because I'm finding some of these items that I've looked at over the years that have always just been way too expensive for me to purchase. I couldn't justify it. I'm seeing sales like nobody's business. And this is one of those things where I've looked at something like this before and you're like, oh, $400.
Because you
Yeah.
can't get your significant
Right.
But
other
maybe
to
this is
massage your feet.
Well, but this, God bless them, unless they're a masseuse, you don't know which areas to hit. And this can be customized for certain types of massage. It can have other, I don't know. It seems amazing. It just seems amazing.
So, Kathy, this is your Monday Cyber Deal, but also, hey, Christmas wish list. Michael, if you're listening.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was this just Cyber Monday in general and not like, hey, I want that baby Yoda ornament?
Yeah, it was supposed to be. It's what the wish list show, but that's all right. So if we could pop back to the gadgets, and again, this is at mysmartgadgets.com. Number 3 on the list is the Peeps Carbon Technology, where you can get your glasses clean, now available to the public. This was from
candy?
NASA. No.
I know you say Peeps, and
Like
I'm
Peeps is where Peeps.
automatically-
I know. But this is something that NASA had come up with. It is now available to the public. And again, all these things are extremely affordable on these cyber deals. Number 4 is magnetic levitating Bluetooth speaker. Now, this is way cool. I love all the levitating. Have you seen the levitating helmets? They do the football helmets and they levitate them. I think that's way cool. This is a Bluetooth speaker.
There's one like that that's a baby Yoda. Just
Is there?
saying.
Yeah, there you go.
Of course
So
there is.
I love that stuff. Also, neck relax, discover a better way to eliminate neck pain. I've seen these all over the place. These are like those neck massage thingy-majigger-mabobbers.
Okay, those are all over Facebook. Are those legit or not? Because
I
there was
don't know.
also the neck hammock, which I've used all of twice because, not so much.
I don't know.
Hey, Fred Nord, I just want to say, member of the crew, he is always willing to take one for the team. He said, I tell you what, Kathy, he said, you buy it and I'll review it on air for you.
Yeah.
Fred, you are so nice. Thank you.
Let's jump to number 7, if we could, please, Bree, the intern. So number 7 is Fixed, F-I-X-D, prevent thousands of dollars in unnecessary car repairs. I love this one because, how many of us are not car repair experts, right? So Fixed instantly tells you why your check engine light comes on,
So
how
you
severe.
don't get jacked over by a
The
car place.
that's right.
Because they see me coming a mile away. They're like, oh, I bet this girl can't even change the time on her
And
clock.
It goes with your phone, right? So you put this device in.
This is great if it works.
Yes, and it goes with your phone. It tells you how much the repair should cost.
Yep.
It gives you easy to understand terms on what's wrong. And that way you can leave, what this says is leave shady mechanics in the dust. It's easily plugged into any gas, diesel, or hybrid car from 1996 onwards. Yes, it's like having a mechanic in your pocket.
Okay, how much is that? That's fantastic.
I don't know. It just says learn more. I'm not going to click on that.
Oh, okay, yeah, because it'll do 19 pop-ups.
They're offering right now a special buy two, get one free promotion, and get it while it lasts. They have over 7,000 potential issues that they identify in your car in real time.
Wow.
Yeah, how cool is that?
Doesn't matter foreign or domestic car, doesn't matter.
Any gas, diesel, or hybrid from 1996 on. So anyways, mysmartgadgets.com is way, way cool. Get over there. They got all kinds of fun stuff you can look at. This is one of my favorite, actually.
If that works,
fixed.
I'm going to be very impressed. Oh, and by the way, just note to the crew, if anybody knows of a decent used car for a really good price, Emily's car finally gave up
Emily's
the ghost. God bless her. It was handed down to her from her grandfather who had passed, and the mechanic was like, honey, it's just, that's it. That's all she wrote. So in the market for a new one. So, but don't want to get jacked around.
So here's a thing you want to talk about or think about. When I went into Google and I typed in top Cyber Monday deals, right? There's several ways to Google this. What did yours pop up? My Google popped up. The first 4 at the top were all technology. Computers.
Because, again, that's what you research the majority of the time.
So when I put in there Cyber Monday Deals 2020, that's what came up. When I did Cyber Monday Deals, no 2020 on the end of it, I got the first one was clothes, the second one was shoes, the third one was TVs.
Interesting.
Yes. So then when I typed in just cyber deals,
right,
nothing else, right? I got CNN that pops up, Fox popped up, MSNBC popped up. All of a sudden, it was all the agencies talking about.
Interesting.
So
they're still trying to get traffic back to their station.
Exactly. And so here's the big thing, right? Be careful what you search in your Google line. You will get different results.
You want to be more specific.
Be specific to what you want.
Well, and it's interesting that 2020, that pulls up what you dig. You dig the gadgets, the technology, all that kind of stuff. You're always up on that. Can you pull up what came up when I did my Amazon search?
Yeah, very interesting.
Because I'm more like, squirrel. Let's go look at this over here.
Yeah.
Let's go look at this over here.
No wonder you get along so well with us. So, and again, maybe I'm dropping hints too. I don't know. Let's see if Chambriel can get this.
Disney.
And there we go. So this is a pre-order must.
You are hilarious.
The child.
Is this going to be like the
real?
Xbox?
Okay, the child Real Moves plush by Mattel. Star Wars: The Mandalorian. So embrace your guardian skills when you assume control of the child, which is Baby Yoda. Which, by the way, and it's already on my Facebook page. I've already had people message me and go, "You're kidding me that you did a spoiler alert." And I was like, I was so excited I couldn't help myself. We do know as of this past Friday what Baby Yoda's name is, what the child's name is on The Mandalorian. Message me if you'd like to know, or go look at my Facebook page. So this includes the child Real Moves plush, plus a remote control. It also has a unit that attaches to the wrist. It's got a joystick. It can do the Force. It can levitate stuff, like probably just like something that comes with it. I'd like to see it levitate my unicorn.
Kathy is hoping that it can levitate
I'm hoping it would be
her dog.
I hope, yeah, I would love to see it levitate Kira. That would be a blast.
She would love
and Kira would love that.
Yeah,
well,
Yoda unicorn.
I would like to see Baby Yoda levitate one of my unicorns, and there you go. So anyways, I would lose my mind. First of all, I would take even just the plushie that doesn't move. But if I had a Baby Yoda that moved around and had an object it could levitate, count me in as a 10-year-old.
Well, what was that thing? That was the Bluetooth speaker thing that levitated that little ball thing, right?
Oh, yes. Well, and there is a Baby Yoda that's just like that speaker thing that you can hover in your hand. That's like a little droid thing.
Just put your unicorn on there and let it hover.
Hey, that's not a bad idea, Charles. Anyways, note to self, I'm thinking, how much weight did it say it can handle? I'm going to go home and weigh this little unicorn. Yeah. So I have literally tagged my poor husband in every Yoda toy there is.
Hashtag Yoda.
All right. So here's the big question. The big question is, because this is what I've been asked on text. I've already been hit with 10 text messages this morning. What about Amazon's top deals? Well, how about this? Again, when you type into your browser, top Amazon Cyber Monday deals. First of all, it comes up at the very, very top, and it's all images with pricing and everything. They are saying that the number one moving item on Amazon.com is the Vineyard Vines men's Saltwater half zip jacket. You know that half zip that comes only halfway down your chest?
Oh, yeah.
And you zip it up?
Yeah.
Number one seller, $98.50. They've got the Plus Grid Mesh Yoke Solid Top, 2XL Black Elegant for $7. The Woman's Sweatshirt 4UU Fashion Tumbler, and this is a really pretty jacket, $8.49. Women's Pullover Sweaters Crew Neck for $25.99 from Bella Lily. Cyber Monday's best seller for women, Thermal High Rise Brushed Nickel Pants.
Brushed nickel pants?
Yeah, they've got the color of a brushed nickel,
yeah.
you know?
Oh, that's their color. I'm like,
that's their color.
Yes, that's kind of like robot pants.
Yeah, no, by Bayleaf. And it's those stretchy pants that look like they're the skinny jeans type thing. And so that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's your number 5 item, but they're saying it's one of the best sellers for women. Number 6 is JBL Tune 120 TWS truly wireless in-ear headphones for $39.95. Now, I bought mine for $59, and so I would have saved $20 if I'd have gone to Amazon today. And then the number 8 is Edgar's Reclining 81-inch pillow top arm sofa for $579.99.
Oh, huh.
And then 5 things you should know about my wife special T-shirt. And then ending out the top 10 for top Amazon Cyber Monday deals is the Hanky Hem. That can't be right.
The Hanky
No,
Hem.
it is.
The what?
Hanky Hem Buster Denim Cami Top.
What does that mean? What
for
is
$11.
Is it a camisole?
Yes.
Huh.
And it's cute.
I wonder what a hanky hem means.
Maybe that's the name, but it's cute. She's kind of cute.
Oh, there you go.
That's top 10 on Amazon.
Go. Hey, and Greg had a good thing. He said, JP still using Google, and he said DuckDuckGo.com doesn't track you or I guess doesn't sell your information. So that's good to know. And then Fred chimes in, of course. Fred's on a roll today.
Oh, yeah, he's on a roll.
I better clear my history before I put in Cyber Monday deals, LOL.
I didn't ask. I ignored it on purpose.
Don't ask, don't tell.
So it's time for the
Don't
mental
ask,
health
don't
moment,
tell.
though.
Yes.
And so we're going to turn it over to Patty as Patty gets ready to come on and get going with the mental health moment. Always great to have the mental health moment, especially in times like now when you heard what Kathy had said or led with Japanese, what they're experiencing right now with suicide rates and all of that. And so super excited to have Patty Giolet coming on with something for Kelly Foundation. Is Steve joining us this morning with the Morgan Foundation? Is he physically going to be here? No. Oh, he's electronically.
And I need to give a special shout out to probably my all-time. He is my all-time, one of my first students, and one of my all-time favorite students, Todd Wimpy, who he was in the hospital over the weekend, but he's back home. He's actually with his brother Brad, who's a good buddy of mine. Hi, Brad. Todd, I love you, and I'm glad you're feeling better. Mwah. This is a virtual hug for you. And I'm so glad that you're watching this morning, Todd. Thank you. He's one of my students from Plano East from back in the day.
Yep.
So, Todd, so happy that you're doing better and you're watching the show this morning.
Glad to hear that. And
Love
tell Brad we said hi. We both know Brad. Also want to thank Acadia Healthcare for their sponsorship of the Mental Health Moment, having the foresight to see the importance of bringing mental health to the public awareness. And so we want to thank Acadia Healthcare for all they do. You'll see here on in the monitor in just a moment the information for Acadia Healthcare. You can contact Chris Getz, your own personalized concierge for all your mental health needs with Acadia Healthcare.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Cyber Monday. I hope
Happy
you had a
Cyber
good
Monday, right?
Thanksgiving. Did you have a good holiday?
We celebrated yesterday with my dad.
Nice,
Yeah, my
nice.
dad, it was sad. My dad's like on Thursday, he's like, well, this doesn't feel like Thanksgiving because we were at a friend's house. I hadn't cooked
right.
yet.
Yeah.
And I said, well, Sunday we're doing our Thanksgiving. And so I asked him yesterday, I said, so does it feel like Thanksgiving? He goes, yes. Now
Good.
It feels like Thanksgiving.
That's nice.
So it was the extended Thanksgiving remix.
Yeah.
You
We
gotta love
we
that.
just didn't have time because we were going and getting him, bringing him back
Well, I mean,
from
y'all
Phoenix.
literally had just
and-
gotten back home, and then we
Correct.
filmed for a couple hours here Wednesday night, which we're very excited. Actually, you'll be able to catch JP and I in an interview in the Miss Texas Virtual magazine coming out here before too long. So
That's great.
we're
Good.
really excited. Yeah, I think we sang on the interview.
We did. But you
Okay.
know what? It was really fun is that it's amazing what you can do on very little sleep and after driving for 23
Oh,
hours.
you were on
for 2
fire.
days.
You had
'Cause
more energy
came,
than me.
Oh, I don't know about that. I just came straight. I basically got home, took a shower, shaved, put a suit on, and came right up to Venture X
Oh,
Suit and a bow tie.
after being on the road for 11 hours.
long trip, guys. Well, we're happy to be here on the Mental Health Moment, and happy Cyber Monday to everybody.
Yes.
I think we have Beth waiting for us in the green room or the Zoom room, or what do we call that?
You can call it the virtual green room if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Good morning,
some kind
Beth.
of fun. There
Can
we
you hear us?
go. Good morning, Beth.
Good morning. How are you?
Hey, there
We're
she
doing
is.
well.
Beth De Palma is with us this morning. I am so happy that you are up to joining us today. Beth is recovering from COVID.
Oh my
So,
goodness!
God bless you,
How
girlfriend.
long? How long has it been since you were diagnosed?
About 2.5 weeks.
Okay, so are you feeling significantly better, or?
I was really lucky. Really, it was mostly being tired and this real nasty cough.
Okay,
So I took like a 4-hour nap every day.
right.
But other than that, I was blessed to have a pretty easy strain.
Okay, well, we're so glad that you're healthy enough to be here, and we'll be praying for you to fully recover and very quickly before Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you for
You're
having
welcome.
me.
Oh, you
So-
bet.
Beth, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us. We're going to jump right into it this morning because we have a lot to talk about, and you have a lot of expertise and experience to share with us. Beth, let's start by you sharing with us a little bit about your background, your credentials, your area of expertise, so everybody understands what we're going to be working on
Sure.
today.
So I'm currently a clinical consultant for a psychiatric medical device. I work in transcranial magnetic stimulation. We use an MRI style magnet and we actually pulse the brain that excites the neurons, and we're able to help patients with medication resistant depression kind of restart their brains and be able to produce all those things that make us feel good. And what my role is whenever a physician takes on the system, we create programs. So we build an experience around a depression device. The patient's awake the whole time. It's a repetitive treatment. And so my job is get an office ready to go. I have a master's in clinical mental health. So we try to create much more than just coming in and having something done. We create an experience, right? Because for those of you that have ever experienced depression, or it's tough, right? We feel disconnected, and we want to be a part of an intervention that makes us feel like part of something. And the cool thing about what we do is we build a program around a piece of equipment to where from when you walk in that door, you're important. And you have a bunch of people surrounding you, wanting you to do well, and you start connecting again.
Which is
Yeah.
huge, and which is what we are missing out
Oh.
on more than ever from this
Yes.
pandemic. We
Yes.
talked about earlier in the show that in Japan, just in the month of October, they had more deaths from suicide than they have from the entire pandemic for the past year. That's just tragic, and that's so unnecessary.
Well, and we all traveled in tribes for a reason back in the day.
Absolutely.
Right? We need each other.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep.
Whether people want to admit it or not, like we need each other.
We do.
And so we build a lot of programs based on that need for human interaction and to be seen and heard. So my background is in counseling, but I've also sold medical equipment for years. And every piece of equipment that I've sold has a reimbursement component, right? So we work a lot with insurance. I have a reimbursement manager that is amazing, and he and I work together. And so part of what we do is we teach offices and we teach patients about their mental health benefits. Because the last thing you want to do is try to learn about your benefits when you're in a time of stress.
Beth, that's super important. Let's talk a little bit about how they understand their mental health benefits. How do they compare with, how are they similar to, and how are they different from your medical health benefits?
So I don't know about y'all, but I am guilty of, until I worked in medical, I didn't know anything about my benefits. I knew that work gave me these things and they made us sit on a phone call that was very boring to learn about my benefits. And it's not exciting. It's not fun. And most of the time people are scrolling on their phones and not paying attention. But your benefits are actually very, very important. So what most people don't understand is that not all the time, but a lot of the time, you have your main medical insurance through, one of the big five. Most people do, Blue Cross, Cigna, Aetna, United Healthcare. And most of the little side pieces are called carve outs. So have you ever noticed, and a good example is I have Cigna as my medical insurance, but my dental is actually through a third party company called MetLife. So insurance
isn't that, Beth, isn't that how most companies are? I mean, I'm trying to think of anybody who I know who has dental and medical through the same. And so it's like, okay, now you've got to learn a whole new set of rules for this and for this,
Correct. And so behavioral health is the same way. A lot of times you have what's called a carve out. And so it's a whole different plan. So some of the common carve outs you're going to see are Anthem, Magellan, Beacon, United Healthcare's is Optum. So there's this whole third party company that is managing your behavioral health. And what's tough is they don't necessarily always play by the same rules as your medical. And so I think that most people think when they go to the doctor says, hey, I think this is a great intervention. That means that they could just do it. But the interesting part is all those companies have different criteria that you have to meet to be able to do XYZ thing. And most people do not even know that this is the criteria has to be met or there's a medical policy on this until they need something. And that's where we get into trouble, is because we want to make sure that, if we're going to offer something to somebody that's in pain, we want to make sure they fit the criteria first. And then we have to jump through all the hoops of what insurance wants you to do in order to be able to be deemed appropriate and necessary to have that treatment.
Right. Which, I mean, and that's, and that's key. And again, what tips can you give to somebody who's, unfortunately, you usually don't learn about your benefits until such time as you really need them, like you've been hospitalized or whatever the case may be. Gosh, is there like a how-to for those of us who aren't in that field to be able to figure it out? I mean, it's tough. And then like I'll call, and ask questions of insurance, and I get frustrated because I don't even understand. I'm like, are you speaking English? Just somebody say it very simply to me.
Yeah, that's a really big frustration, Kathy, and that's an excellent example. Beth, you and I have had conversation before where you have to be your own advocate.
Yes.
Because especially true in mental health or behavioral health, it's also referred to, the rules are not the same, even though they're supposed to be. The insurance companies are acting out on their own rules and guidelines, and until they get called out and basically enforced to do the right thing,
yes,
there's lawsuits out there where insurance companies have their accountants involved in what kind of care and coverage that you receive. So to Beth's point, you need to understand. So how do we understand, Beth? Give some real life examples, tips.
No pressure.
That's part of her job, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, so you're going to have two ways that you're going to get benefits. A majority of us get them through our employers, right? So in that situation, you have a little less leeway to get to pick what you want. And then some people go to the marketplace and they buy their own insurance. So what you want to do is you want to compare insurance policies, right? So you want to look for the things that you need, and you want to also look for how much you want to pay for a plan. So right now, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but when I was home for Thanksgiving, all I saw were insurance commercials, because it's about that time of the year where people decide if they want to keep theirs or move to a different plan.
Oh yes, oh yes, and they're like, and today's the last day to do this, and then you just panic. You're like, wait,
Exactly.
what? Do I have that? And that's the thing.
Yeah.
How do you know what you have, what you need? And then I've got friends now that I'm getting older. I've got friends who are over 65, and so they're looking at the government entity of it as well. That's a whole nother thing, because then they're frustrated, and especially those friends of mine who are on an antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication, or mood stabilizer, or who go and see somebody professionally for mental health. Then they're having to put the government component, and then they're having to add on maybe a Blue Cross Blue Shield or something for the mental health component. I mean, you need a separate degree just to even begin to understand all of this.
Well, and they rely on that, right? So the thing that the insurance relies on the most is that you don't know your policy.
Right.
You don't know anything about it, and they rely on that. So what you can do is you can kind of arm yourself, for instance, with your Medicare, right? So there's two kinds of Medicare. There's traditional Medicare, there's the red, white, and blue card, and then there's like the Medicare Advantage plans. And you know that those are Advantage plans because they're backed by a commercial plan, like Blue Cross Blue Shield,
Right.
Cigna, something like that. Okay. What most people don't know is that insurance, like Medicare, plays by Medicare rules. But when you go to an Advantage plan, all of a sudden you were privy to the commercial payers' rules. For instance,
Oh.
for TMS, right? You don't have to have a pre-authorization. You only have to have one failed med, and you can, on traditional Medicare, you can go ahead and get the procedure. On an Advantage plan, you have to not only play by their rules and their criteria, but you have to get a pre-authorization. So there's a lot more hoops to jump through. And so it's different. And so when you're looking at Medicare plans, even though something may be cheaper, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best plan. So you want to do a side-by-side and see what they offer. And then you want to go and you want to look at the criteria on those commercial plans to see, because you always have to play by their rules. So you want to look at that. You want to look at your costs versus your deductibles. So usually you have two kinds of plan. You have a deductible plan where you have to pay so much out of pocket, and then you start seeing a percentage share or something like that. And then you have a copay plan where you pay your $25 every time you go to the doctor. You want to look at that, like monetarily. If you take a lot of medications or you go to the doctor quite a bit, look at what that's going to cost you. Right? Is it going to be less expensive to do the copay plan and pay a little bit more every month? Or is it going to be less expensive if you go all the time to take a deductible plan and then start taking off some of those percentage shares? It's tough. You really want to sit down and you want to go through that plan. The other thing you want to know your rights, right? Like, just because somebody denies you something doesn't mean that's the end of the road. You can always appeal. And the greatest strength you have is you're the patient. Your offices can do so much, but at the end of the day, you're the person paying for that plan, and you have rights. And if there's something that you need, you can fight for that, and you can get other people to help you. I think that we have these times of distress where we really need things, and everything becomes very overwhelming. And that's the last time you want to try and look for something in your paperwork, right? So if you're choosing a new plan, you really want to read through all those paperwork, look through the fine line details, know if there's any catches, understand, if there's a procedure that you do all the time, you can actually go to the website and you can pull the policy for that procedure and read through it and know what the criteria is. Because the more you arm yourself with knowledge of your plan and the criteria that needs to be met for the things that you need, the more likely you are to be able to find something that works for you, and also fight your good fight if you have to.
Yes, especially nowadays with COVID, where, if you have to go in for a surgery, boy, I'm going to be real picky. Like, if it's a COVID heavy hospital, well, I don't want to go have shoulder or knee surgery there, I mean, unless you're in an emergency situation where you don't have a choice. If it's, what do they call it? Elective surgery, I guess, where you plan it out ahead of time and all that kind of good stuff. That's really good advice. I mean, Patty and I both looked at each other like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. You can pull out the individual information on that procedure.
Exactly. And so, Beth, where can people go to kind of walk themselves through some of these options that you're asking them to do for themselves? Because number one, as we all know, you need to be your own advocate.
Yes.
And it sounds like a simple statement, but truly, I have heard so many stories where, to Beth's point, the procedure or the treatment or the medication or intervention has been denied. But then the doctor or somebody else who is an advocate for the patient, or the patient himself or herself, finds a way to fight this or to deal with it. Is there anything out there, Beth, other than what we're talking about right now, that would help people understand what the ABCs are for what, one, they should do to compare their plans, and then two, what they should do if they're denied a treatment that they feel like they need? Is there anything out there that they could go to?
If you're buying your own plan, usually if you're on the marketplace, you can compare plan to plan. So you can do that. The other thing that most people don't know is on the back of your insurance card, there are a bunch of 800 numbers. Excuse me. And you can actually call insurance, and they're required to answer any questions that you have about your particular policy. So usually if it's with mental health, you either want the customer support line, and if they ask, you want behavioral health most of the time. And you can ask every question under the sun. You can say, what's my deductible? What happens after I meet it? And they can walk you through everything monetarily. You can ask about certain medications. You can ask about certain procedures. And they can tell you if it's covered, if a provider is in or out of network. And then at the end of the call, what you want to do is you want to ask for a name and you want to ask for a reference number, because now that conversation that you had with somebody over there is recorded under that line, and it's recorded with that reference number. So you can always go back and say, well, so-and-so on this day, on this reference number said that my transcranial magnetic stimulation was covered, so you can reference that. That's usually the best way to go. And then most of the time, anytime if you're working with an employer, usually you get a new packet every time you guys change insurance. I know that this is a very unpopular, but you really want to read through it, and you really want to find out if you have any questions on that.
I'm so sorry, Beth. I can't. I know it sounds like the right thing to do, but I'm just going to put it out there. Like, I know I don't read my own commercial block policy.
You should.
I know it, girl. What do we need to do to give us the incentive?
What's the incentive there?
We need to incentivize
Knowledge.
this some way. And to your point, though, when you sit down with the person who is selling you the insurance, whether you're doing it online or you're doing it with a sales agent or representative or whatever, I think that what helps me a lot is to sit down and ask some very specific questions ahead of time, because the policy itself can be decades of pages, right? So we need to do something that kind of highlights the important things, because there's a lot of boilerplate in there. And if we could do something to help us to highlight those important points, like you just said, what's the deductible? You want to know, the biggest thing is you want to know what kind of plan is it? Is it a deductible? Is it a high deductible? Is it a low deductible? Is it a copay plan? You want to know, what does this cover? So most deductible plans, after you meet it, they break down into a percentage, like we'll pay 80, you pay 20. And then when that's met, what happens after that? So really, if you want to look at your cost share breakdown, and then you want to know what are the big things that it covers. So if you know that you go to the psychiatrist for your ADHD meds once a month, right? So that's at least, one out of pocket a month to go to that appointment. Is it covered? Right. Do I need to have a referral? Do I have to have a specialist? So think about just the things that you need or your family needs, and ask those questions. Is that covered? What if my
two kids get sick and these are the things that I need. And especially with mental health and per your point about Japan, is our facilities covered, right? Is inpatient covered? What happens if something bad happens? Is that something that's covered under my plan?
And it typically ends up being, it's covered, but it's so minimal that it's ridiculous. And again, that's something that we've got to change through legislation and different things like that. We've got to mandate we've got to demand that, hey, insurance companies need to make sure they treat mental health like they do if you were on dialysis or something, or if you had cancer.
And that is an incredibly important point. People think that because we have mental health parity, they bandy that term around very easily. But unless you demand it, unless you know your rights, unless you arm yourself with information. I mean, we kid about how hard it is to get up to speed on this, but it's critically important to understand it, because when you need it, and right now, mental health is really here as far as a pandemic is concerned.
Yes.
Oh.
I think the numbers for mental health are going to outweigh the deaths. I think just like we've seen in Japan, I think, again, people dying from drinking too much or from a drug overdose or just a myriad of things,
And the point also, Kathy, is that they are interrelated. People don't typically abuse substances out of the void.
Well, if you're driving to work from 9 to 5 like you normally did, well, you're not going to start drinking at noon.
Well, right. But mental health and substance abuse are related.
Yes.
Mental health, depression, anxiety, the rate of comorbidity of some of these issues is so incredibly high that to try to isolate them and say this is a mental health problem, but that's a medical problem.
Right.
We've got to get past that, because they're so interrelated. This is such a holistic experience that I don't even know how you can separate them, because they impact each other. So
not visible, right?
I'm sorry.
So
what's
you
that?
Say that again, Beth.
It's also not visible, right? Like if somebody has a broken
Bingo.
leg, it's very obvious
Yes.
that they have a broken leg. Mental health is so silent and invisible because you can't look at somebody and just judge.
And we
You
don't want
know.
to talk about it,
But Can you
unfortunately.
imagine if like there was a way that you could put a bunch of people in a room and have them turn a color or something if they're struggling with something, how meaningful and visible that would be to people? Because the problem is it's very invisible. It's not something you just see on somebody. It's not something that we recognize unless we really sit and visit with people. And so people it's not at the front of everybody's mind because it's not there.
Well, and Beth, I think that's so huge what you're talking about, like being able to see, because you might interact differently with that person at work, in your family, in your circle of friends, because you think about somebody who's has mental health issues, and we've got another show on our network called This Pink Cloud, and it's about sobriety, and the gentlemen on that show talk about, and one of them is my brother who's now getting close to, I think, 150 days sober, and his alcoholism got heightened when he lost another job during COVID, and that's when it kind of came to a head. And they talk about, my brother talks about dealing with extreme anxiety his whole life, but then how the alcohol made it worse, but he didn't realize that until he was in rehab. And you know what? If you would have talked to my brother, we were talking to him on Thanksgiving, and he said, this is probably the first time I've been sober at a family get-together in, I don't know, a decade or so. And we're like, what? Because here's the thing with people who have mental health, because it doesn't mean you're not bright. Usually some of the most brilliant people have mental health issues, and they're really good at coping. Yeah. To the outside world, I should say.
Well, they silently struggle.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because they say some of the saddest people have the most beautiful exteriors.
Right.
Because they've learned how to do it for so long. But at the same time, everyone in this world deserves to feel joy, every single person. And we live in a tough world. There's a lot of triggers. There's a lot of stuff going on around us and uncertainties. And everybody finds something that makes them able to cope in their moment, whether it's right or wrong, it's their safety blanket for that time.
Right.
And it's to be respected. But to be able to shirk that off and give it away and welcome something back in is tough. But how amazing for your brother, right? Like, kudos to him, because that's the hardest thing in the world. And to be able to be at a dinner and feel so good and so free, that is amazing.
Beth, we always like to have something on the show that helps people with some hope. And we've talked about struggles. We've talked about advocating when you're denied coverage. Talk a bit about what you see as the future and the hopeful areas that you're familiar with or that you see coming. Something good that can come out of COVID, something good that can come in the new year, something that you see on the horizon that you know is going to offer a bright future for patients, for caregivers, for clinicians. What do you see out there?
So I think that one of the good things about COVID is it really brought mental health to the forefront, right?
True. That's a really good point.
Mental health is something that always sits there. It's kind of like, that relative, that black sheep relative at a holiday that nobody really wants to talk about, but is there, and it has always been there. I mean, the funny thing is mental health has always been sitting in this corner when it comes to health and care and wellness. And people having to stay home, people who have lost their jobs, people trying to rediscover a new normal has brought that to the forefront because, I think a lot of people, have you ever heard this phrase, pull yourself up by your bootstraps?
Yes.
Of course, yeah.
Yes.
Do you know that that's literally impossible? You cannot do that.
You can't do it. But
And
it's
so
famous
ironic,
term.
right?
Yep.
So like everybody's trying to be brave and pull things up by their bootstraps and like put that thing that's bothering them down. But we've been in a situation where there's no place for it to go, right? People aren't going to work. They're doing Zoom. They're looking for new jobs. And so it's surfacing. Everyone's mental health in the last year is surfacing. And it's saying, here I am. This needs to be addressed. We've seen some really cool things happen in our area. Or typically we used to have 4 medication fails before we could start working on transcranial magnetic stimulation. During this time, insurance has noticed that people really need this, so they've dropped the medication trials to 2.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Isn't that cool? So they're paying attention.
Wow.
They're really, and people are advocating for themselves like nobody's business. A lot of my offices do a great job of advocating for patients because it's important. We're seeing, I'm in the only industry that has risen during all of this because people are realizing I can't do this on my own. And it's forced this to be a topic of discussion, which I love because like Patty said, comorbidities and depression and all this stuff go hand in hand. And so for insurance to really see the influx of people using these benefits now and the need that they have and all the pre-auths that are coming in, they realize that they have to adjust the way that we look at criteria now to be able to be beneficial because these people really need these interventions. So if one good thing came out of this, it really has highlighted the need for better mental health practices, better understanding of people around us, right? Like, are we practicing grace? You don't know anything about the person next to you. I mean, especially during this time, like, are we using this time to be better human beings and practicing grace and trying to really understand the people around us, right? Because that's the way that our tribes did when we first started.
Very good. Beth, you mentioned something, and I want to bring us back to it because I'm very much interested in taking advantage of the mental health benefits that you do have available. And one of the things you mentioned was that people in the clinics, the practitioners, are advocating for their clients. So let's just say worst case situation, you did not end up doing what we're suggesting that you do today. You did not read your policy. You don't know what your benefits are. Now you're in the throes of needing the benefits and you realize I'm no way capable right now of coping and reading that crazy policy that Beth DePalma told me I should be reading. How do you go to the professional and say, I'm really out of my element right here? Who do they ask? Do they ask the doctor? Do they ask the assistant? Do they ask the person at the front desk? How do they go about saying, I didn't do what I should have done, and now is there any way I can get you to help me to advocate on my behalf with my insurance company?
Yeah, so most psychiatry offices, depending on what kind of intervention you're looking for, has somebody that is charged with calling insurance, figuring out like what the cost is, what it looks like financially, what the criteria is, all that kind of stuff. So for the most part, they usually have a specific person, depending on, like for most of my TMS offices, I have what's called a coordinator, and that person is in charge of looking those up for the patient. In other offices, I'm sure that they have something similar. But anytime, and I will say this, at least in Dallas, the psychiatrists here are really good about if they're going to suggest an intervention, a mental health intervention, they usually have somebody in the office that will call up to insurance and get the lowdown and then kind of break it down to patients in the clinic. And if they don't, ask them to do that. I worked in a psychiatrist's office for a year, and we would have patients that called and said, hey, I really just don't understand this. Can you help me? And we would call, we'd get the skinny, and then we'd sit down and we'd break it down. Cause it's very overwhelming and intimidating. Insurance, I mean, they make it that way on purpose. Yes. But to be able to have somebody in an office that you trust to call up there and be able to break it down for you is a big deal. And most offices will do that.
I think you said the right word. I was thinking this very same word, intimidating. And I know that it might not always be true, but I think that people are intimidated to call the insurance company because we are predisposed to thinking that they don't want to give us the coverage anyway. Right. So even if they're obligated to have this conversation with us, like Beth said that they are, and it's on a recorded line and you can ask for the reference number, etc., I think that as a patient, I would feel like I was being taken care of if I were able to speak to the person in the office where I was going to be getting the intervention or the treatment.
And I think that's a great suggestion. That might be a more caring place to start. The other's almost like business, more business speak. Yep. And the other is you usually, whatever doctor's office, especially a mental health office that you go to on a regular basis, you know the person, you probably know the person in the finance office. You probably know the person, sitting behind the desk. You've become friendly with these people. Absolutely. So, and you have a level of trust there. Well, Beth, this has been fascinating. We'd love to have you back on again because this is so much to chew on. But this is at least a real good starting point.
We've not had this conversation before, Beth, and I really thank you because
we could have you on for 2 hours.
Right. I love mental health. You could have me as long as you want. It's my favorite thing to talk about.
Beth, thank you so much for taking your time to Zoom in with us.
Yes.
And continue to take care of yourself, get your rest, and I'm happy to know that you are now testing negative when you get your COVID test.
Love it.
So continue with that, and best wishes to you all.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you. Great day, you guys.
You too.
Okay,
have a blessed
day.
week. Well, and we want to thank Acadia Healthcare. If you or anybody they're our sponsor for this mental health moment. If you know of anyone who is struggling and having a hard time, reach out to myself, to JP. Just message us on our Facebook page or on any of the social media platforms we're on. Message Patty, message Steve.
Absolutely.
Patty's with the Something for Kelly Foundation. Steve is with the Morgan Foundation. Reach out for help. Reach out for help. Do not suffer. It's just not necessary to suffer.
That's a really important point, Kathy. People have been suffering in silence for so very long.
Right.
And
you don't have to.
We need to get past the idea that people are alone. They are not alone, and they don't need to feel alone.
Well, and thank you, as always, Patty. We love having you in studio.
Thank you, Kathy.
So good to see you. So good to see you.
Happy Cyber Monday.
Yes, happy Cyber Monday. Everybody have a blessed week. We will see you on Wednesday. We'll be talking a little politics on Wednesday. And we'll also have our education expert, Dr. Rebecca Good. So I'm super excited about that. 10:30 today, tune in for Heart and Soul of Texas Women. We are actually talking with an individual whose crusade is to stop sex trafficking here in our country and in particular in Texas. So please tune in at 10:30 on JP, Kathy, and the Crew Network, and we will see y'all soon.
All righty then.
Have a blessed day.
Mwah.